But I asked her, I said, Kimmy, do you have butt implants? Sometime in early 2011, while I was working at Lamborghini Atlanta, a tow truck shows up with a pretty worn out looking blue 04 Gallardo, and the wheels are all curved up and the tires are bald and it's leaking oil and certainly not running under its own authority. And the two guys that brought it in didn't really speak much English, but as best we could understand, they were asking us to tell them what it would take to make the car functional again. So they drop it off, and we do kind of a cursory evaluation, and certainly it has a laundry list of things. And we tried to reach the phone number they had left and got no answer. So a few days go by, and we have this guy walk in, and he says, do y'all have a blue Lamborghini here for service? And I said, yeah, we do. Do you know anything about it? And he said, well, it belongs to my girlfriend's daughter, and she's very attractive. I said, well, that won't impact our service that we'll provide to you, sir, but always nice to know things in the periphery. And so I said, well, is she available? And she said, no, she's currently in jail. She said it was for speeding. She got caught. I said, okay, well, do you know when she might be available, or if there's anyone else we could speak to who could make decisions about repairing it? She said, well, you might be able to speak to her mother. I'll try to get you in touch. Nothing happens. And a few days after that, we had kind of put the car back together enough after we had decided it needed a clutch and a rear main seal and a throwout bearing and tires and brakes and a few paint repair things. And it totaled up to about 20 grand. The owner finally revealed herself. And while Lamborghinis have a reputation of being gold chain wearing rappers and prostitutes, it's not always true, but sometimes it is. And in fact, the prior owner to this car was a prostitute. Now, I should probably say that she's allegedly a prostitute, but that would be a disservice to the 3 municipalities in Metro Atlanta that had convicted her of such things. And so she walks in, and Kimmy is a fascinating person. I'd say she's one of the most interesting people that I've ever come to know. And she's, best I could understand, half black and half Vietnamese. And her, I suppose, as she might put it, most marketable feature is her backside. And appearing to be rather augmented, I actually saw on one of her social media accounts that she boasts that she has a 50-inch hips. So the girl could take a break while hula hooping. And it's just a fascinating thing to behold, even if it is not arousing or attractive in any way to you. But I just enjoyed every kind of interaction that I could have. But the most immediately pressing issue was that she had a car that she had paid $100,000 in cash for a few months prior down in Lamborghini, Miami, and was unfortunately in no position to spend $20,000 making it run again. And so, just like the Ferrari 360 that I had bought from one of T-Pain's rappers, there weren't a lot of hand raisers for a basket case Gallardo. And it was blue Chalune with an Avorio Lilium interior, and obviously it had some exotic smells and things to it, and it certainly was a little rough around the edges, but for me, the idea of owning another Lamborghini and having something that you could rather guiltlessly go out and drive just sounded wonderful. So the general manager of our dealership didn't want it for inventory. He didn't want to try to off it to any wholesalers. He was like, Ed, if you can talk her into selling it and get us a service bill, it's all yours. So I talked to Kimmy and I offered her $30,000 for this car. And she wanted $75,000 for it. And again, she was a shrewd negotiator, so we settled on $30,000. After we'd agreed on a price, after she'd agreed to my price, came the formality of writing her a check for it. And Kimmy said, well, I kind of need another car, and I'd really like to have a pink Bentley like the one that Paris Hilton has on television. I said, well, you can't buy a pink Bentley for $30,000, but you might be able to put 30 grand down. We could buy you one for 50, paint it for 10, or wrap it. Let's look at your credit, and perhaps we can find a bank that wants to loan you the other half. She said, great. And so that meant that Kimmy and I got to talk about her credit. And so she sat down and she gives me the full spelling of her name and employment information, and listed off some pornography company, and gives me her social security card, which she carried with her at all times. And so we go and we get to pull Kimmy's credit. And our finance guy comes back and says, Ed, did you write it down wrong? And I said, no. In fact, I'm quite positive it was right. I saw it on the card. And he said, well, she doesn't even have a credit score. It's not low. It just doesn't even exist. The girl's never had a phone in her own name or a library card for that matter. So unfortunately, we weren't able to find a bank to participate in being the first auto lending effort for Kimmy. But that meant that I just said, sorry, but we're going to get you a check. So I go and I get us a check cut and hand her a check for 30 grand. And she looks at it and says, what do I do with this? And I said, well, you take it to your bank and they put it in your account. She said, you can take it to our bank and they'll give it. So, well, can you just give me cash? I said, no, we don't keep cash around for that purpose. And she took it very concerned that I was being truthful, but obviously she found someone who would give her the money. And so I was the proud owner of a non-running blue Lamborghini sitting in our service department. And over the course of a few weeks, we got it all put together. Spent a lot of time with disinfectants and other cleaning supplies, and I was again the proud owner of a Lamborghini that I had bought from a prostitute. But the problem was that the car had 2 keys, but it only came in with 1. And she told me that she had the second. But she never would bring it. And I kept texting her and calling her and saying, hey, I'd really like to have that second key. And she just went dark. But a few weeks later, I got a text and said, it's my birthday tomorrow. Do you still want that key? And I'm like, well, I don't understand again what those 2 statements have anything in common other than they're in the same text message. And I said, yes, I do want the key. And she said, can I get $100 for it? And I said, you know what? Yes, you can extort $100 from me to have this key back so that you don't have it and I don't spend $1,000 getting another one from Lamborghini. Why don't you bring it on? I'll give you $100 if you have it here by 5 p.m. Obviously, 5 p.m. comes and goes. But the next day, just as we're about to close at 7 p.m., Kimmy walks in the door. And the easiest way for me to describe what Kimmy was wearing is it was a basketball net. So there was more skin than white fabric. Left nothing at all up to the imagination. And there was actually a woman and a young child at our parts counter buying something. She walked in the door, they saw Kimmy, and she literally ran screaming from the building. But Kimmy comes over and gives me a hug. Kimmy likes to hug. And I said, Kimmy, what are you all dressed up for? And she says, it is my birthday. And I said, well, you are halfway to that outfit. And I don't think she understood me. But I said, well, have you got the key? Yes. Of course, the battery was dead, so I go out and I make sure that it'll actually start the car. And it does, so I give her $100. She's very elated, and she's sitting at my desk. And I felt, given the attire, that really conversations or questions of this nature might not be off limits. But I asked her, I said, Kimmy, do you have butt implants? And she was very proud to answer. I think obviously she spent some time and energy on it and probably some money as well. And she said, no, I do not. I had a fat redistribution. And I said, will you tell me more about that? And she said, well, they made me gain 30 pounds, and then they liposuctioned it all out. And then they injected it right here. She pointed to it, and clearly they'd used something between a turkey baster and a jackhammer to insert it because the scar was rather atrocious. But it had gone in there. I said, does it feel peculiar to sit on it, or is it some kind of, she said, nope, just right there. I said, well, that is fascinating. And I was pleased to have lived long enough to meet the recipient of such a pioneering procedure.